a battle.
Not that I hate Fuego, but you know, you pick up on cues, and if somebody has, for example, you go up to the door and they have scripture on a little plaque next to the door. Okay, well, if you're a believer, then you know you might be on common ground there with the person, and so you learn how to pick up cues like that. And you address them. If I walk up to a door and somebody's got an NRA bumper sticker on their pickup truck, I mean, the first thing I'm going to say is, you know what, I am so glad you're an NRA supporter because I'm a lifer myself. And then that's easy. That's an icebreaker. So with some of those practical things that we can teach you all, and I actually have, and Jim's got it, we've used it at Grassroots, the do's and don'ts of phone banking, the do's and don'ts of door knocking. There are just certain stupid things that you just don't do. And you learn how to be thick-skinned, and you don't care if somebody's nasty to you at the door. You just simply shake the dust off and
the thing that I think this is great, I think this block walking is going to be easier than candidate-specific block walking, because we're not trying to sell anybody a candidate. We're not trying to sell anybody an ideology. We're trying to make them aware. That's the biggest goal, is we're trying to spread awareness. I don't need to sell you on my candidate or my issue. I just need to tell you that this is happening. So I really don't need that much feedback from this person. I just need you to know that this is going to happen and move on. Now, we do want to do some targeted polling, and when we're going to have a leadership meeting on December 7th, and we're going to work that out. I don't need, at this point, you guys to do any targeted polling. We're going to make that happen to give you guys the best knowledge for these are the biggest issues in Texas right now. This is what our stats say. Yes, sir.
Just one thing. What I learned very quickly, I didn't like the idea when Joanne volunteered me for the jobs I had. I didn't like the idea of going door to door. I was kind of shy about that kind of thing. I don't mind public speaking because I've done that. But going door to door, knocking on doors on people I don't know. My neighborhood's easy. It's when I go outside, because I'm a precinct chair, so I don't know everyone in my precinct. And I learned very quickly, when you walk to the door, you go on, knock on the door, you step back so you're not right in their face. They're going to come to the door, and as soon as they do, you put your hand up, hi, I'm your neighbor. Right away, that changes the whole thing, because we are neighbors. Smith County, even if it's outside your own precinct, it's still Smith County, your neighbors. Once you say that, it's over as far as the connection. You now are connected as a neighbor, and they may say, well, where do you live? And then you tell them where you live. And often they even know your neighborhood when you say it. In my case, I live in Emerald Bay, which is fairly well known because it's a community by name, and each community knows by name. So that's the key. After that, you can have a rapport with them on anything. And I usually leave a handout back, which may or may not be Grassroots the first time around, but often give them a Grassroots because that's the group we're with. But again, and then you say to them, are you registered? Well, we know they have been. Are you still registered? They say yes. And then you say, are you going to vote? And they say yes. And they say, great, because I have you on my list. I'll check back with you later. And then what you do, or I do, especially in my own precinct, is I check to see who did not vote that said they'd vote. And I usually try and get back to them, just say, you know, sorry you didn't make it. If you had trouble, you should have called, and we would have got your ride there. So it's easy to develop that rapport in your own. Once you go outside the territory, like some of the people went down and tried to get hold of Joe Strauss, it's a little harder because it's not your neighborhood, but you're still Texas. I'm your Texas neighbor. You know, it's still the same thing. The neighbor thing changes the game.
And block walking is only a small, it's important. It is the bread and butter of grassroots campaigns, but for an awareness campaign like we're trying to do now, I know 6 people that aren't in this room that are registered Republicans. If I tell them, they tell 6 people, it's using your own network that you're already plugged in with and connected with is a great way to also spread awareness, because the biggest thing here is not, we are going to get to the point where we absolutely have to match them, registered voter to registered voter. But right now, and this is the thing that we're struggling with, that I'm struggling with, is because I'm a big picture kind of guy, I'm a leadership cop, I'm just a big picture kind of guy, and this is a baby step campaign. And right now what we're focused on, because we are still in the early phases of this, is awareness. My block walking is going to be dramatically more effective if the person I'm talking to already knows that this is happening.
Jim, go up there and knock on this door and talk to this registered voter. Go through that. I don't want to. Okay.
Here's one thing too. Y'all have to understand that, just think about yourself at your own home. If somebody comes to my door, knocks on my door, or rings my doorbell, and they haven't called first, the first thing that goes through my mind is, okay, what are they trying to sell me? And somebody's always trying to get in my pocketbook. So when they realize that you're just there as a neighbor and you're not trying to sell them anything, you're just trying to make them aware. You will see that the guard drops. So I want y'all to make this into a bigger deal than it is.
Exactly.
I think one of the things that's lacking here is that you all like to probably think in terms of meeting a goal. I think that once we get the voter data, we need to think in terms of precinct by precinct, the goal, the contact goal. And if you have a leadership team in every precinct, if you've got like a captain, and that captain's got 10 people, those 10 people should be responsible for contacting X number of people. So if we use that sort of pyramid kind of deal with this, then you can figure out how many new contacts, awareness contacts you need to make in order to feel successful. I think that's what's lacking here, because a lot of times people, rather than saying, oh, we gotta make people aware, if they had a goal, if we had, Stacy, but we wanna talk about this in terms of getting people engaged and giving people a goal of how many people they should contact, I think that will help people get a grasp of, am I getting close to being successful if we have goals? So I think that's probably what we need to do, is try to set some goals for each area based on the number of votes we think they can turn out.
And FreedomWorks is, we're not gonna leave you hanging out to dry. We're gonna get you material, we're gonna get you stats, we're gonna get you voter information, we're gonna get you walk lists, and we're gonna give you the ammunition. Just need you guys to load it up and use it. And like I said, we're still in the early phases of this. We haven't even had a leadership caucus meeting yet. We're doing that here in a couple of weeks. Like I said, right now we're in the very early baby steps, and I need you guys to know that this is happening. And I need you guys to tell your wives, kids, friends that this is happening. That's the biggest goal right now. Is I'm going to have an easier time in 6 weeks when I come back to do this again. If the room of people already knows what's happening, then we can go to the next step of, okay, so this is the biggest issue in this neighborhood. This is how we should address it. First, we need to soften up the beach with some artillery knowledge of letting people know this is actually happening. This is not a farce. This is not a comical joke. This is not a liberal fantasy. This is happening. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm from Titus County. In the county fair, we have a Republican and Democrat thing at the county fair. And they gave us out, Republicans did, a list of what the Republicans believe in and what the Democrats believe in. And that was eye-opening. It was really eye-opening for somebody to hand you something like that and say, okay. Now, my biggest problem is my little precinct is 90% Hispanic. We're talking about non-English speaking Hispanics.
That'll work.
It's hard.
We don't speak Spanish.
We don't speak Spanish here. I can tell you more bad things than Spanish can. Good.
Well,
I think the GOP has a card like that that
Yeah.
you
That's what I'm saying.
in Spanish on it.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
See, that's frustrating because we want English to be the primary language, and then that's just frustrating.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get in where we fit in sometimes in some of these
Yeah.
It absolutely is frustrating, and there it is. Here, and this is what I've been saying, because on a national perspective, because what I do with this campaign most of the time is I am desperately trying and failing miserably to get national attention and national money to here. It's probably not going to happen, but that's what I'm working on. Is our little individual policy goals, and the Washington D.C. think tanks have all their policy goals. Focus on the family and everybody's little pet policy area. If Texas goes blue, forget it. It doesn't matter. There's no path to the White House. Without a realistic path to the White House, our pet policy projects absolutely are very near pointless. I am, at this point, willing to hold hands with Ann Coulter and Karl Rove and group hug if that's what will keep Texas red. Because if Texas goes blue, it just doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter, if we can't take the White House, we are in serious trouble for our individual policy goals. So yeah, I think English being the common language, and that's a great endeavor. But that's got to take the back burner to right now. We've got to build a firewall and stop this from happening.
Can those areas be identified and then these things be printed in Spanish or, you know?
I'm sure we can make that happen. That's probably pretty cheap.
Especially as 95% Latino, we were trained and we were actually focusing on Hispanic neighborhoods. And we would talk to 5 and 6 and 7-year-old kids that knew English and they would translate for their parents.
That's good.
What do we do? I mean, and we were very effective at selling at those households. How can you do that for him?
We can translate some material into Spanish. Reach out to a Spanish teacher at a local high school. I mean, there are people that speak Spanish in Texas that are conservative. My wife is one of them. We need to bring some of those people into the fold.
And if you've got a predominantly Hispanic-speaking voting precinct, then you need to get someone to help you. And if you get the materials printed in Spanish, and I think probably for this initial round, just something that spells out the liberty message, why it's important, personal liberty, individual liberty, and less government, that kind of message. We probably need to develop a one-pager, like a door hanger push card kind of deal, that's got just the basic core liberty message on it for this initial round. Because if you could, even if we did something that kind of said, what does it mean? What does the liberty movement? What is the liberty movement about? And how does that relate to conservatism? And make it a basic kind of learning tool for these people, because I think that's probably where we're failing, is that we kind of think in our mind, well, we know what that is, so everybody's got to know. Well, they don't.
And one of the things that is really infuriating is how successful Battleground Texas is in the Latino community. And it is not because the Latino community is overwhelmingly liberal. It is because the Democrats, our big thing at FreedomWorks is showing up as half the battle. And we, by and large, punted on that community and are not very effective in it. But the Hispanic Latino culture nationally, in the polls and even in state polls, they are not a liberal community.